in section 118 of the Doctrine and Covenants, and it's only 6 verses, but it's a lot in it. A revelation given through Joseph Smith, the prophet, at Far West, Missouri, July 8th. We already knew that, 1838. All these revelations this week is July 8th, it seems, most of them anyway. In response to the supplication, show us thy will, O Lord, concerning the 12. Verily, thus saith the Lord, let a conference be held immediately, let the 12 be organized, and let men be appointed to supply the place of those who are fallen. So that's 4 of the 12 who had gone against the prophet and would not follow him anymore. Let my servant Thomas remain for a season in the land of Zion to publish my word. So Thomas B. Marsh will be remaining to help publish the I guess the Doctrine and Covenants. It sounds like let the residue continue to preach from that hour, and if they do this in all lowliness of heart, in meekness, in humility, and long suffering, I think this is something that all of us can take on board as we teach other people that we know the gospel, that we do it in lowliness of heart, meekness, humility, and long suffering. I have the Lord give them a promise that I will provide for their families, and an effectual door will open for them from henceforth. I think that means, to me, the effectual door would be that things that they don't realize or could imagine would happen will happen. People will join the church when they don't expect it. Their families will be provided for in ways that they didn't realize would happen, that sort of thing. And I think sometimes we have to do that in our own callings. Realize that if we do what the Lord wants us to do, the Lord will make sure that our families are looked after, and that we'll be able to accomplish the thing which He's asked us to do. And next spring let them depart over the great waters, and there promulgate my gospel and the fullness thereof, and bear record of my name. So the next spring, a lot of things have changed by then. A certain date is given. I think it was in last section. I think the 4th of July was when they were meeting, and they're meeting at the temple grounds. Let them take leave of my saints in the city of Far West on the 26th. Oh no, the 26th day of April. Sorry, I'm wrong. Next, on the building spot of my temple, of my house, saith the Lord. So they are going to leave at the Far West temple spot where they've put down the cornerstones of the temple, but nothing else. And this becomes something that is, I find interesting in church history, that they are able to do that, even though at that time, in a year's time, Far West will be controlled mostly by non-members. by people who are against the church and who would have known about this, but somehow the 12 were able to still meet on that spot and leave. Uh, um, I have my servant John Taylor, and also my servant John E. Page, and my servant Wilford Woodruff, and also my servant Willard Richards be appointed to fill places that have fallen, who have fallen, and be officially notified of their appointment. Now, I don't think we've actually talked about. We might have talked about John E. Page, but I don't think any of the others have been written down. So, as usual, I've put their small biography that we have in at the beginning of this chapter. I always put them here so they're easy to reach. So, John Taylor. John Taylor was born in Millenthorpe, England in 1808. Around 1832, Taylor moved to York Township, Upper Canada, and there married Leonore Cannon in 1833. In 1836, Taylor was baptized into the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints and ordained an elder. Soon after, he was called to preside over the branches of the church in Upper Canada. In July 1838, he was called by revelation to fill the vacancy in the quorum of the 12 apostles, which we have here. And from 1839 to 1841, he served a mission in England. He then moved to Nauvoo, Illinois, where he edited the church newspaper, the Times and Seasons, and was a member of the Council of 50. He was present when Joseph Smith and Hiram Smith were martyred at Carthage Jail in June 1844. After serving another mission to England, Taylor migrated to Salt Lake Valley in Utah Territory in 1847. From 1849 to 1852, he served a mission to France and Germany, and in 1854, he was appointed to preside over the branches of the eastern United States. When he returned to the Utah Territory in 1857, Taylor held several civic offices in addition to serving as an apostle. Following the death of Brigham Young in 1877, Taylor served as the third president of the church until his death at Kaysville, Utah Territory in 1887. These are so small, um, but you get a quick glimpse at their lives. But as we know, there's a lot in John Taylor's life and Wilford Woodruff's and Willard Richards that is not in these little biographicals. But it gives you an idea where they were, what they did, and what happened to them afterwards. Johnny Page, on the other hand, was born in Trenton, New York, married Betsy Thomas in 1831. In 1833, he was baptized into the church in Brownhelm, Ohio, and he was ordained an elder a month later. He was remarried to Lavona Stevens the same year, and Page moved to Kirtland, Ohio. In 1835, Page moved to Kirtland, Ohio. During 1836-1837, he preached the gospel in Upper Canada, and in 1838 he led a company of converts from Upper Canada to Missouri. In July 1838, a revelation um, appointed him to fill the vacancy of the 12, which is right here, um, apostles. He was remarried to Mary Judd, and I don't know anything about his marriages. Um, in 1839, between 1840 and 1844, Page was proselyted to wait, Page was proselytized in the eastern United States and presided over the church in Pittsburgh and served a mission to Washington, D.C. In 1845, he became a member of the Council of the 50. In February 1846, Page was removed from the quorum of the 12 apostles, and he was excommunicated that June. During the late 1840s, he briefly affiliated with other churches, claiming a line of succession from the prophet Joseph Smith. In 1862, Page joined the Church of Christ, the Hendrickites. So he didn't stay. I don't. There's other pages that didn't stay very true either. But John Taylor did. Wilford Woodruff, again, we know, becomes the fourth prophet or president of the church. Wilford Woodruff was born in Farmington, Connecticut. In December 1833, he was baptized into the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints near Richland, New York. In 1834, he moved to Kirtland, Ohio, and participated in the Camp of Israel. So he is one of those that was in the Camp of Israel, and kept a good record, from what I understand as well. From 1834 to 1836, he served a mission to Arkansas, Tennessee, and Kentucky. In 1836, he was ordained a 70, and the following year, he married Phoebe Carter in Kirtland. During 1837 to 1838, Wilford served missions to New England and the Fox Islands. In 1838, he was called by revelation to fulfill the vacancy, which is this again, um, in the quorum of the 12 apostles. He then served a mission in Great Britain from 1839 to 1841, um, along with the other 12. Um, he In 1841, he moved to Nauvoo, Illinois, where he was a member of the Council of 50 from 1844 to 1846. Wilford presided over the British mission. In 1846 to 1847, he migrated to the Salt Lake Valley, Utah Territory. Over the next 4 decades, he served in various positions in the church, including church historian and president of the temple in St. George, Utah Territory. After John Taylor's death in 1887, Wilford was sustained as fourth president of the church. He received announced announced in manifesto in 1890. I think we'll get to that later this year. That led to the end of the practice of plural marriage in the church. In 1893, he dedicated the Salt Lake Temple. President Woodruff announced in Revelation in 1894 limiting adoptive sealings and focused on sealing marriages and parental-child relationships. He exhorted members to trace their genealogies as far back as they can and to be sealed to their fathers and mothers. Um, I think if you want to, see Church History topic sealing. He died in September 1898. So, um, just on the sealings, there was what was called adoptive sealings, which was um, faithful members, say of the Quorum of the 12 or otherwise, people would seal themselves adoptively into their families rather than their own families. And he's saying, no, that's not what we should be doing now. We should be sealing ourselves to our grandparents and our great grandparents and so forth, not to adoptive parents' um, sealings. So the adoptive sealings had a purpose at a time, but not to be continued all the time. And that's one of his things. And then, of course, plural marriage, which I'm sure we'll get to later this year. Finally, Willard Richards was born in Hopkins, Massachusetts in 1804. December 1836, he was baptized into the church in Ohio. He served a mission in England from 1837 to 1841. So, like a year after he was baptized, he went on his mission, married Janetta Richards, and was ordained a member of the Quorum of the 12 Apostles, which is right here. In 1841, Richards moved to Nauvoo, Illinois, where he was the Nauvoo temple recorder, Joseph Smith's scribe, and a private secretary, and church historian, among other responsibilities. He had a lot of responsibilities. Um, Richards was present when Joseph Smith and Hiram were martyred, so we have John Taylor and Willard Richards that was there. And we'll get to that later on this year when we have the martyrdom of Joseph Smith and Hiram at Carthage in June 1844. Um, he migrated to the Salt Lake Valley in Utah Territory with other saints in 1846 to 1847, and then returned to winter quarters in what later became Nebraska. He was appointed second counselor to Brigham Young in the first presidency in 1847, and in 1848 he led a company of saints back to the Salt Lake Valley, where he ultimately died in 1854. So, some really faithful brethren there. John A. Page, maybe not so much, but at this time he was. And I always try to remember that when I read these, that they followed this path or that path, that some of them were faithful at the time they were called and really served well. And I think we should always try to serve the best we can, and no matter how our calling is, at what time of our life. John Taylor and Wilford Woodruff were not presidents of the church when they joined the church. They were members of the church. And same with Willard Richards. He was not in the first presidency of the church when he joined the church. He was a member of the church. And they did those things which the Lord asked them to do. And I think we can do the same in our own callings and remember to um, build up wherever we are in the church and I hope you have a wonderful day, and we'll see you tomorrow.